I would say there is never a case where eminent domain is absolutely needed. Some development committee of the Board of Aldermen this morning, I did my thing about eminent domain, and Joe Roddy before me said why that he was supporting the taking of 29 buildings in his ward, and I spoke against that taking, and against not only that taking, but the taking on many other occasions of occupied or vacant residential or commercial, good or bad property. Just in general, you know how I feel about eminent domain. There's always a better option. Now, can we educate the public on the, I guess the truth of that statement and the appropriateness of that statement? That's a challenge for our coalition. And after I was done and sat down, I thought it was over, Roddy got up to the microphone and basically accused me of being the biggest slumlord in McCree Town, and that I didn't get occupancy permits for the buildings that I managed, and I avoided it by putting the utilities in my name or the company's name so that we didn't ever get inspected. And I said, my gosh. One of the point I tried to make to the aldermen, and both Alderman Jeffrey Boyd, and particularly Jeffrey Boyd, and Lewis Reed to some extent, were helpful in getting the discussion out. I think Jeffrey Boyd asked, is there never an occasion when you would use eminent domain, or you would be in favor of eminent domain? And I said, not really, but there's a couple occasions when I personally, but not necessarily our coalition, would not object to it. That's what I'm wondering. You know how many occupancy, all your inspectors know us, you know us. I don't know where he's coming from either, but what I did is I wrote to you as the building inspection supervisor and said, here's what was said about me and about our operation in a public meeting, and I was not given the chance to refute it. The chairperson of the meeting was April Ford Griffin, and she said, no, the discussion's over. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be charged with being a slumlord and breaking the law, then I want a chance to defend myself. And so I wrote to you, and I sent a copy to Roddy, and I sent a copy to April Ford Griffin, and I gave you the list of all the aldermen that were there at the meeting, were on the committee. And I don't expect you to do things for me, but if I'm charged with something, that's it. Yeah. This charge that we're a slumlord is just out of place, and it's simply wrong. Well, okay. You do whatever you feel you can or is appropriate. Okay, Jerome, thanks. Okay, fine. Let's say that you're doing something on the riverfront. That's a unique location. Or the Missouri Botanical Garden. It's a unique institution. And they needed additional land, and maybe a private entity would end up owning part of that. I might be able to favor that if it was submitted to a vote of a very broad-based community. Perhaps the metropolitan area or a whole county or something like that. And if I was sure that the people whose land was going to be taken would be fully compensated for the value to them. Not the value to some appraiser, but the value that they had and all the inconvenience of moving and finding equivalent property.